In the heart of Ikorodu, in a rusted face-me-I-face-you compound where the neighbors' arguments were louder than the church bells and mosquitoes hummed louder than generators, two sisters grew up like sunflowers between broken cement reaching for light in a place that had none, Miriam and Ruth, daughters of Mama Ebele, a widow who sold roasted plantain and groundnut by the roadside to keep the family afloat. Their father had died when Miriam was 7 and Ruth was barely walking. He left behind a radio, a broken wall clock, and poverty wrapped in silence. Every morning before school, the girls helped their mother with her roasted plantain stand. They found the charcoal, peeled plantains, and shouted from sunup, hot plantain. Hot groundnut. They take turns attending school, because there wasn't enough money for both to go every day. One would stay behind to help Mama, while the other wore the tattered uniform. At night, the sisters sat on their shared mattress, using candlelight to study torn textbooks. They dreamed out loud, one day, we'll go to university. We'll live in a place where nobody knocks to share bathroom water. We'll wear white and black. And enter big offices. And Mama will never roast plantain again, they pinky swore on it. By some miracle, or Mama's fasting and dry prayers at Mountain of Fire, both girls got admission into the University of Lagos. Miriam studied mass communication, Ruth got into accounting. When the admission letters came, Mama sold her last wrapper to raise transport fare and gave them her life savings, 10,000 naira. Don't let this world change you, she said. Let your feet still touch the ground even when you reach the clouds. The sisters promised. Hugged her tight, they cried, then they entered the bus to Lagos. The university was a new planet, hostel smelled of ambition and body spray. Girls wore wigs longer than their assignments. Boys dressed like Instagram rappers. And everyone was looking for two things, clout and money. At first, Miriam and Ruth stuck together. They cooked with electric coils, shared one bucket, and told stories at night. Ruth sold scrunchies and braided hair to survive, but something began to change in Miriam. It started when her roommate, Linda, invited her to a birthday party at a club in Lekki. There, Miriam met Uncle Sei, a well-dressed businessman who bought her fried rice and iPhone 6. That was all it took. Soon, Uncle Sei was giving her weekly allowances. Then came Chairman Tolu, who gave her a new apartment. Ruth watched in confusion. Miriam, you're disappearing into something we don't know, she warned. You're just jealous, Miriam replied, tossing her new Brazilian wig. Of what? Of being bought. Ruth responded. They stopped speaking for a while. Ruth stayed in the school hostel, struggling. Miriam moved to Lekki Phase 1, got lash extensions, and joined the school's Influencers Association. The girl who once shared rubber slippers now wore designer heels to lectures when she attended. Ruth was dating Tond, a third-year law student. They met at the campus fellowship. He was kind, God-fearing, and hardworking. Or so she thought. One evening, Ruth's cosmate invited her to do a private hair job for a VIP girl at Club Mirage, a high-end club in Lekki. Reluctantly, she went. She followed her friend into the club's VIP section. There, under flashing lights and haze, she saw Tond. Laughing, kissing, Miriam, her own sister. Ruth dropped her braiding tools. The music felt like war drums in her ears. Her heart screamed louder than the DJ set. Miriam met her gaze, but didn't flinch. Tond shrugged and whispered, she told me you were her broke hostel roommate. Ruth left angrily. The next morning, Miriam knocked on her hostel door. You think I'll suffer while you cook with matches and carry water? He was the only good thing I had, Ruth responded. Then maybe you should have fought harder. They became strangers. A few weeks later, Mama fell sick. Her chest ached, her body weakened. The doctor said it was hypertension and grief. Ruth borrowed money from classmates, sold her phone, and traveled back home. Miriam never came. Not even a phone call. When Mama died, Ruth buried her alone. The woman who roasted plantain to raise them. The woman who told them never to forget. She was wrapped in white cloth and buried behind the house. The neighborhood kids cried. Ruth screamed into the earth that day. Not just for her mother, but for her lost sister. Ruth spent the next few weeks beside her mother's grave, crying and praying. One day, Miriam arrived. Her skin was darker. Makeup gone. Wig cheap. Eyes hollow. I thought money would save me, she said softly. It never does, Ruth replied. Miriam handed Ruth a sealed envelope. Inside were medical papers, HIV positive status, a withdrawal form, and a letter. I lost myself. I was trying to escape poverty. I became a stranger in luxury. I want to come back. If you let me, Ruth said. Nothing. Forgiveness wasn't easy. But Mama's voice echoed in her heart. Second chances aren't free. 3 months passed. Ruth had returned to Abuja to continue her NYSC service. She wore her khaki uniform with quiet dignity. While other corps members found ways to manipulate PPA postings, she remained disciplined. Every kobo she earned went towards survival, pure water, beans, and barely enough transport to work. But Miriam was trying. She checked herself into a small NGO rehab program in Lagos. It was run by women who had once been trafficked, addicted, or abused, but now stood as beacons of recovery. The place was called the Healing Nest. Miriam wasn't a saint overnight. She fought temptations. Old numbers would still call, offering just one night for 250,000 naira. Some days she cried. Some nights she vomited memories. But there was a girl named Bisola, younger, fresh from the village, already being groomed by predators. Miriam couldn't watch in silence. I won't let her become what I became, she told the supervisor. That was the day they asked her to become a volunteer counselor. Meanwhile in Abuja, Ruth's boss, a stern, rich woman named Mrs. Rita Monkham, had been watching her closely. Ruth arrived early, never stole, never fluttered. She worked like a machine. One Thursday, she was called into the office. You've been shortlisted for a full-time position at our international partner firm in Canada. It's competitive. We are nominating just one candidate from this entire region. Ruth gasped. Me, yes. But there's one small condition. Ruth's heart paused. Your name has come up on social media connected to a girl named Miriam. Pictures from university. There's talk she was once involved in sex for pay scandals. And HIV positive. Ruth's stomach turned. Miriam is my sister, we know. That's the problem. This firm is strict. Clean reputation, no noise. You want this opportunity. You must write a public disclaimer. Denounce her. Make it clear you're not responsible for her life choices. Ruth sat frozen. Mrs. Rita smiled wickedly. You've worked hard, Ruth. You deserve a better life. But sometimes sacrifices must be made. That night, Ruth couldn't sleep. She held the paper they had given her. A typed disclaimer with only her signature left to add. I, Ruth Okizi, hereby disassociate myself from the actions and lifestyle of Miriam Okizi. She wept, her hands trembled. She remembered them as little girls. Splitting one sachet of peak milk between 2 cups of pap. Laughing under mosquito nets. Hugging each other when Mama was sick. She also remembered the betrayal. Her ex-boyfriend. The club. The humiliation. Mama's burial alone, but then she remembered what Miriam had become now. A girl helping others. A girl trying. Before deciding, Ruth dug into her trunk again. Beneath old NYSC papers and handouts, she found something she hadn't opened in years. Mama's handwritten letter to Miriam. If this world swallows you, let your sister pull you out. If you lose your way, let her light your path. You will both be each other's strength when I'm gone. One of you will fall. The other must not leave her behind. Ruth clutched the letter like scripture. She took out her phone and typed something else entirely. Instagram post by @Ruth_Kizi. She was once lost. But she found her way. She slept on the floor with me. Shared food with me. We buried our mother with bare hands. She made mistakes. So did I, but if you ask me to choose between success and my sister, I choose blood. I choose the one who chose to change. My name is Ruth. And Miriam is my sister. I am not ashamed. The post went viral within 24 hours. Some mocked her. Others praised her. But something else happened too. A woman named Mrs. Anita Bello, who ran an international NGO called Wounded But Worthy, reached out. "We saw your post. Your courage is rare. We want to work with you and your sister." Ruth and Miriam were invited to speak at an international conference in South Africa. Topic: restoration after rock bottom. They were flown business class. Given a platform, Miriam stood on stage, hands shaking. "My name is Miriam. I sold my soul. I gave up my body. I buried my mother in guilt. But I am still here. And I want to help someone find their way home." The room was silent, then applause. Standing ovation. Ruth wiped her tears. They held hands. Together. Oh, the sun fell like melted gold on the windows of the Healing Nest that morning. Miriam was folding donated clothes when Ruth walked in, holding a cream envelope. Her hands were trembling. "It came," she said quietly. "What?" Miriam asked. "The final offer. From the NGO in South Africa." Inside the envelope was a letter stamped with gold foil. "Dear Miss Ruth Okizi, we are honored to offer you a full-time humanitarian leadership role in Cape Town. This position includes relocation support, housing, and a salary 4 times the Nigerian rate." Ruth dropped into a chair. "They want me to move in 3 weeks." Miriam's eyes flickered. "That's amazing, Ruth. You deserve it." But there was a heaviness between them. A silence thicker than secrets. Later that night, Miriam was washing dishes when she spoke without looking up. "If you go, what happens to us?" Ruth said nothing for a long time. "I don't know. You're stronger now, Miriam. You're doing fine. I'm still healing. I still have days I want to disappear. What if I fall again? Then I'll fly back. I promise." "You can't promise that." The words hung in the kitchen air. Ruth wanted the job. She wanted more than survival. She wanted to thrive, to build a future where her children wouldn't have to know what "face me, I face you" meant. But how do you chase the sky when the only thing that kept you grounded might fall apart without you? 3 days later, Miriam and Ruth attended a youth conference. Miriam was a guest speaker. As she stepped down from the stage, a man in a navy suit walked up. "Miriam." "Long time." She froze. It was Say, one of her old clients, the first man who ever paid her to forget who she was. "Wow. You've cleaned up nicely," he said, smiling like a snake. "Your story, it's inspiring. But does everyone here know the full version?" Miriam tried to walk past him. He blocked her. "You're famous now. I wonder what would happen if these organizations saw pictures. I still have a few." "You were quite the wildflower." Ruth stood beside her, fierce. "Touch her again and I'll break your face with this bag." Say laughed, but his eyes darkened. "Careful. Fame is fragile. One scandal, and all this disappears." He slipped her a business card. "You'll need me before long." That night, Ruth couldn't sleep. She watched Miriam staring blankly at the ceiling. "He won't stop, you know," Ruth whispered. "If I go you might face this alone." "I won't be alone," Miriam responded. "I have this place. I have Bisola. I have myself." "But go, Ruth." Miriam turned to face her. Her eyes were teary, but her voice was strong. "Mama didn't raise us to cage each other. She raised us to fly." At the airport, they held each other like the world might split open. "Promise me you won't fall," Ruth said. "Promise me you fly," Miriam replied. The plane doors closed. Ruth watched the tarmac disappear, her heart breaking and rising at the same time. 1 year later, in Cape Town, Ruth stood on a rooftop overlooking the city. She now ran a program teaching underprivileged African girls how to write, speak, and rise. Her name was on billboards. She had her own office, but every Saturday, she and Miriam FaceTimed. Back in Nigeria, Miriam had grown too. She'd started a podcast for recovering girls called Ashes to Angels. It went viral. Bisola was now enrolled in school. The Healing Nest had doubled in size. They were both rising on different soil. with the same Ruth. One morning, Ruth opened her inbox, subject, nomination for UN Women's Changemaker Award, to Ruth Okizi, from Global Women's Empowerment Foundation. Attached was a nomination form. Please list the woman whose story inspired you most on this journey. Without hesitation, she typed, Miriam Okizi, my sister. My miracle, a single tear rolled down her cheek, not of sorrow, but of gratitude. She thought of the plantain hawking days, the fights, the betrayal, the healing and the woman Miriam had become. Ruth hit send, and just like that, everything they'd been through, every wound, every scar, every second chance, was sealed in those 5 words. 2 weeks later, back in Lagos, Miriam was teaching a class at the Healing Nest when Ruth flew into the country and burst through the door holding her phone. She was crying and smiling at once. We got the call, she said breathlessly. From who? Miriam asked, confused. The United Nations. You've been shortlisted for the Changemaker Award. Miriam dropped a whiteboard marker in her hand. Her knees buckled, and she sat down slowly. Me. They chose me. No, we were chosen, Ruth said. But I put your name, Miriam laughed through her tears. Ruth. I don't deserve this. You survived the fire and helped others out of theirs. If anyone deserves to be seen, it's you. They hugged in silence, their hearts pounding, not with fear this time, but joy. Months later, in New York City, lights flashed as global changemakers gathered at the UN auditorium. Miriam stood on stage in a simple but elegant African print dress, Ruth beside her. The giant screens behind them played a video, their story, their home, their girls. Their mission. The hall was silent. Moved. Touched, then came a standing ovation. Miriam stepped forward and took the mic. There was a time when I thought my life had ended. I thought I had no voice, no name, no value. But someone believed in me. My sister, Ruth. When the world gave up on me, she gave me a second chance. Today, I don't stand here alone. I stand for the girl in the Face Me I Face You compound, the one who hawks bananas to feed her mother, the one who was told she was not enough. I stand for her because I was her. Another round of thunderous applause. As she stepped down, Ruth whispered, I'm proud of you, I'm proud of us. Miriam whispered back in Nigeria. Miriam and Ruth were welcomed like heroes. Cameras flashed, and crowds cheered. But they didn't return to fame, they returned to their girls. The Healing Nest now had new sponsors, new volunteers, new hope. Miriam expanded the center to nearby cities. Ruth took on a leadership role in education reform for vulnerable girls across Africa, and one morning, Bisola, bright-eyed and grown, stood in front of her class at the Healing Nest and said, Aunties, I want to be like you when I grow up. I want to help girls who are broken. Miriam looked at Ruth, tears in her eyes. We didn't just survive, Ruth. We created something beautiful. One quiet evening, Ruth found their mother's old Bible tucked away in the Healing Nest library. Inside was a note in their mother's handwriting, to my daughters. If you ever read this, it means you made it. No matter what the world tries to do to you, remember, light can always rise from ashes. And your bond is your greatest treasure. Protect it with your life. They cried. Then they laughed. And then they prayed. Miriam continued taking her HIV pills and it kept her healthy. They both kept living and impacting lives. The story that began in struggle ended in strength. Sometimes the greatest miracles are not found in churches or in the skies. Sometimes, the greatest miracles are the people who choose to love you after everything breaks. Ruth and Miriam were not perfect, but they were proof that love can rebuild what betrayal tried to destroy. Your past doesn't define you, your decisions do. Family can hurt, but it can also heal. Betrayal doesn't have to be the end of your story. Helping others is the best way to heal yourself. Love, when true, always finds a way back home. Thanks for watching. If this story touched you, please like, share, and tell someone who needs hope that healing is possible. More beautiful stories are on the way. Until next time, stay strong, stay kind. I remain your favorite ebony storyteller. Bye for now.